As if I needed another hobby to spend my money on, I recently got into Laserdiscs. This is a lesser known analog video format that's actually pretty interesting. Here's what the player looks like. Pretty standard stuff except for when I press the open button and this massive disc tray comes out. And of course, an equally massive disc gets slotted right in. These discs are a foot across, 12 inches or 305 millimeters, which is the same size as a vinyl record. I built quite the collection and I can't wait to show you everything about Laserdiscs. The player I have is pretty basic. It has a ton of buttons for selecting chapters. That's right, Laserdisc has chapters, CD playback, etc. There's this cool knob you can twist to vary how fast forward or backward you go. And of course a screen to indicate what's going on. All these little boxes indicate the chapter. On the back you have stereo audio out, mono audio out, composite out, and CD deck synchro. I think CD deck synchro makes it so when you click the play button on the CD player part of this, then it'll send a signal to your cassette deck to start recording so you can dub CD on a cassette. There's also ports for the barcode scanner, which I'll touch on later. It's a pretty basic player, but it gets the job done. Oh, there's also a part labeled VHF adapter. I'm assuming that it plugs into the video and mono out, and in between is a DC jack where it gets power. I'm not going to go too far into how Laserdisc works since I can barely understand it myself, but all you need to know is that it has pits and lands, kind of like a CD or DVD, but the pits and lands encode analog information instead of digital. I'm pretty sure it's like a frequency modulated signal, and that contains all the video, sound, all that. The Laserdiscs have so many cool features, like frame-by-frame play and, as I said, chapters. The reason these have to be so big is because it's storing uncompressed analog video. If this was digital, I imagine it'd be much smaller, like CD or DVD size. But this was the 70s, it had to be analog. It's storing the entire analog signal on this disc, which is a lot of bandwidth. Fun fact, you can even see the blanking intervals between frames if you hold the disc just right. Okay, so I'm going to put this into my TV so you can see what's going on live. I'll also show some direct captures later. I'll power it on, and all it has is this blue screen that says stop. No startup sequence or anything. When you press eject, the massive tray opens. Again, these are huge. I'm going to put Footloose in. Since these are double-sided, they're labeled, so I'll put side 1 facing up. The label also says that it's extended play and CLV along with stereo audio. You might be wondering what CLV means. There are two disc types, CLV, or constant linear velocity, and CAV, or constant angular velocity. These can do 60 or 30 minutes respectively. I'll show you what it means. Say this string is the data on the disc and it's wound in a circle. If I unwind it, the laser is going to be reading this at the same speed no matter what. This means that the data is going to be stored at the same density. This isn't to scale, but let's make some marks on the string to show the different frames. There we go. Now, if you wind it all up again and try and read the data, to keep the same linear speed as if it was unwound, it has to spin faster in the middle, and as you go out on the disc, it slows down the disc. That's because it's reading at the same linear rate. Now the problem here is that the frames are all scattered, which you'll see why that matters. Also, as it seeks throughout the disc, it has to get to the right speed, so if you're skipping over a large portion of the disc, it's going to take more time. But the trade-off here is that you get 60 minutes of playtime, so it's worth it. And I'll explain CAV later. I'll close the tray, and you'll hear it click as it engages all the mechanisms. It detects that it's a Laserdisc and that we're on side 1. Now the disc starts spinning up, which sounds pretty cool. And now it's playing. The disc says LaserVision, which was an earlier name for the format. I'll switch to a direct capture of the Laserdisc now. The quality isn't all that bad for technology from the 70s. This disc is pretty old. All the dates on it say 1984, so there's a chance that the physical disc is as old as the movie itself. That's a 40-year-old disc. Remember, this came out around the same time as VHS, about a year later. Obviously, both of these were in development for years before. I also have Footloose on VHS, so here's a comparison. Laserdisc, VHS, Laserdisc, and VHS. Sound quality is okay too. This disc uses analog sound, but there's discs with digital and even 5.1 surround sound. And of course, closed captioning comes through as expected. If I twist the forward and backward, you can see enough of the image to see where you are in the movie. What's interesting is that all it has to do to fast forward is move the laser away from the center of the disc, since it reads middle out. I'll show this a little more when I open up the player. And this is a CLV disc, so it has to slow down the disc speed a little as we go. When I pause it, sadly it resorts to the standard blue screen. No frame buffer or anything. But it keeps the disc spinning so I can instantly resume. There's also the ability to jump to different chapters. On the back of the sleeve, it lists different chapters you can jump to. If I type 5 in on the player, it goes blue for a bit and seeks to chapter 5. It takes a little longer because, again, CLV, so it has to get the disc to the right speed before we can play again. The intro button, or highlight, jumps to the beginning of every chapter so you can see a preview of it. And the digital audio output button doesn't work. It just says analog on the screen. This is because the disc only has analog sound. I'll show this button on the other discs later. Okay, here's something really cool about Laserdisc. Some of them were released as open matte. This means that the 4:3 aspect ratio of the movie is actually an expanded version of the normal release. The DP shot the whole movie on 4:3 film, knowing that a matte or black bars would be added in post-production to bring it into a widescreen video. So most of the world has seen this movie in widescreen, but on Laserdisc, you get to see more of the movie. This is really cool. They could have just cropped in the already cropped widescreen movie to fit the screen, and we would have missed out on all the stuff on the sides. This means there are some things you wouldn't normally see. Check this out. At the end of the scene in Footloose, there's this wide shot, and the boom mic was in the shot. Again, the DP probably ignored this because it was going to be cropped out anyway. I mean, I guess not on Laserdisc. Okay, let's watch another movie. I have a massive collection of these at this point. I'm going to make a Patreon exclusive of my collection and even opening a brand new one if you're interested. Here's Austin Powers. This one actually has Dolby Digital Stereo and Surround. My player doesn't support Surround though. I'm going to load it in and press play. The intros to these discs are pretty cool. If you want to watch these and a lot more of other clips that I find, I'll link a playlist that has a ton of intros and bumpers and stuff like that. Now the digital audio output level button works, and it just adjusts how loud the audio is. When I was capturing video of this, I noticed it peaked a few times, so I turned it down. Okay, now I want to switch to the analog audio. That's right, it's possible to listen to the analog audio track too. I don't have the original remote though, so that's where my Harmony remote comes in. I made a video on it if you want to watch it. I programmed it in, and now I have a ton more buttons. There's basic controls like play, eject, etc. But if I click on the digital/analog button, you can see it says analog on the bottom. Now listen closely.
Writing of this sequence came very late in the scripting process. After I saw...
There's director's commentary on the analog track. That means you can have two completely separate audio tracks. Now if I click the audio button on the Harmony, it switches to this horrible sound. And that's the digital audio. And the screen says 2/RCH, meaning the right channel. If I click again, it has a combination of the director's commentary and the horrible noise.
We come to my favorite shot in the whole movie.
So on the left channel, there's normal audio, and on the right channel, there's the digital audio data, which was that noise. Then the player just picks up on this and decodes it into normal audio. These step and multi buttons on the Harmony do nothing yet, besides showing CLV in the top. This is just telling you that it's not supported because it's a CLV disc. You'll see what it does when I put in a CAV disc. The display button shows the chapter, time, and playing status. If I click it again, it even shows the remaining time, and one more time for the total time and chapter count. Okay, now it's time for a CAV disc. This one is kind of special. It's a LaserVision demo disc produced by LaserVision. So CAV means constant angular velocity. Back to my analogy, let's get a new string. The frames are going to look more like this. When it's wound up, they're all nice and orderly. One frame is one rotation. That's it. If we unwind the string, they're spaced apart differently. The data is less dense as you go out. Anyway, let's wind this up and try and read the data. One revolution, no matter what, is one frame. You can simply spin the disc at the same speed, and it is always in sync. It's much easier to skip to a certain part since it doesn't have to slow down or speed up the disc. Now the trade-off here is that you only get 30 minutes of playtime. When I start up the player, it seems normal, just starts playing the disc like usual. Also, in that same playlist with all the Laserdisc stuff, I recorded this entire demo disc and put it up there. Anyway, it's completely normal, but when you look at the front, there's this number that keeps ticking up super fast. That's the frame counter. On CAV discs, one rotation is one frame. So every time the laser travels one time around the disc, it can just count up. because that means one frame. This is different than CLV, where there can be multiple frames in one rotation. When I hit the display button on the Harmony, it shows the chapter number, the same frame counter, and that it's playing. Now if I press step on the Harmony, what? It's in slow motion. I can use the multi plus and minus buttons to go all the way down to 1/30th speed, meaning 1 frame per second, and all the way up to 3 times speed. I can even do a clean freeze frame. It wobbles a little because of how interlaced video works, but it's still pretty good. Then the step left and right buttons let me move frame by frame throughout the disc. This is much better than VHS, which is kind of snowy or fuzzy when you pause. Also, no matter which speed you're watching in, it keeps the disc spinning at the same RPM and just moves the laser forward or backward. So when it's on freeze frame, all it's doing is staying in the same place and just reading one rotation at a time, and it's super easy to do that. It can also jump between chapters much faster because it doesn't have to spin up or slow down the disc, it's just moving the laser to a different part. You can even hand key in a frame that you want to see. If you want to see frame 20,000, you can just type that in and it'll jump exactly to 20,000. It's just so cool that all this was possible on an analog format. And this was in the days of VHS. Alright, let's tear this down. It's literally just a few screws on the sides. Okay. There we go. Okay, so pretty much, obviously, here's that huge tray, which is absolutely massive. And then inside of here is the laser. You can see just single laser, there's a ribbon cable connecting it, and the rest is just board. Laser moves down, and it pushes the tripod. So there's that laser assembly, and then here's the power supply, so AC 120 volt just hanging out right there. Looks like a big transformer. These transistors are just bolted right onto the frame, so it distributes all the heat there. Inside of here, these are actually conveniently labeled. So you can see that board's labeled video, so this clearly processes all the video and outputs it. There are the video out jacks and then audio out jacks there, so it's probably labeled audio somewhere, kind of hidden away. I want to say this gray cylinder thing is the motor, and maybe it's directly driven. Here, let's close it. You can see the laser moves up and down, and then it scans probably for a Laserdisc first, then a CD. And there's no disc, so it just says no disc on the front. Let's actually put in a Laserdisc now. Okay, so Laserdisc is in. This is that demo disc. I wanted to do the demo disc because it's constant angular velocity. Let's just press play and then watch this thing spin up. It's so fast, I can feel the air coming off of it. This disc is moving at an insane rate. I think it's 1800 RPM. And this is what it spins at the entire time. Okay, so now you're close up. You're in between the tray and the disc, so you can see the laser. Now watch if I hit chapter 1. The laser actually just moves there. There's me skipping to the next chapter. Okay, here's me twisting the rewind knob. You can see it just inching forward. Okay, now let's do a CLV disc. Again, huge disc. My hand is probably about 1.5 feet away, and I can feel the air coming off of it. Now it's probably a little hard to visually see this, but let's try going chapter 9. So you can hear the laser seeking. You can probably see the disc is slowing down a lot because it's linear velocity. Now it's moving out to the outside, so if I go back to 1, there you go. That's the inside of the Laserdisc player. Oh, about the CD player mode? Yeah, it plays CDs. This wasn't too hard to implement since CDs and LDs use the same wavelength of light. I imagine it's just some different circuitry to decode it. There's a button labeled Direct CD on the front, which illuminates when I press it. This basically makes the whole thing into just a plain old CD player. It blinks the screen and everything. Now when I press eject, this little section in the middle of the tray ejects, which is cool. I'll put a CD in, and it says CD on the front, and it uses the chapter display to show how many tracks there are. This album has 20 tracks, so this red arrow at the bottom right indicates that there are more than 19 tracks. If I press play, it just starts playing. Now this is pretty normal for CDs. Let's turn off Direct CD. The screen is just plain blue. On CDs, you can still adjust the digital audio level, and I'm going to turn that down because it seems to be clipping just a bit. You can also do the program edit button, but I'm not too sure how to use it. I'll give it a shot at the end of the video. Interestingly enough, the highlight/intro scan button works, but it doesn't do the intro of the song. It plays each track at the time you are currently on. So I'm at 2 minutes and 26 seconds, so it plays a few seconds of each song at 2 minutes and 26 seconds. Kind of interesting. The chapter buttons work too and just skips to that track. I don't think I mentioned it before, but you have to press the +10 button to increase by 10. So to get to track 20, I have to click it once for +10 and then once again to add 10, so 20. Then you just press play. It also says track on the screen, not chapter, obviously. And I can skip to the lower tracks by just directly clicking the buttons. The fast forward and backward knob works too. Sadly, there's no CD text on the front display or on the video output, which is a missed opportunity. I don't see why they wouldn't just go the extra mile and show the track name, but whatever. There's still a good amount of info if I click the display button on the Harmony remote. The first time I press it, it has the track number, current time, and play status. I should mention I tried slow-mo playback like on Laserdisc, but that didn't work. On the bottom is a sound level meter. Of course, it's so compressed that it barely moves, and it's maxing out at -6 decibels because I had the digital audio output level lowered. When I click display again, it shows the absolute disc time, meaning how far it is in reference to the whole disc, not just the current track. The numbers below are the tracks, and the ones with a box are unplayed. If I click display again, it shows the remaining time for the track, again for the remaining time on the disc, and one more time to show the total time and tracks for the disc, along with the digital audio output level. And that's it. Also, as I'm recording this, I noticed the front display changes as I press display, so it'll count down and all that. Okay, time to eject this, and since it's not in direct CD mode, the entire tray ejects. It looks funny having such a large tray for such a small disc. Another thing this has is laser barcode. From what I can gather, it looks like you'd get these sheets of barcodes with a Laserdisc, and then you just plug in the barcode scanner and scan a barcode, and it'll jump to the different parts. I could see this being really helpful with educational discs, so if you wanted to skip to a certain math lesson, you just scan the barcode. I ordered the barcode scanner on eBay and was going to make a video on it, and then it turns out the seller lost it, so I got a refund and no more. But I'll look out for another one. One more thing is PGM edit. This means program edit, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't really know how to use it. Well, I kind of know how. You can press the program button on the front, and it'll let you type in chapter numbers. Once you're done choosing the chapters you want, just press play, and it'll start playing the first chapter that you chose. Then once that is over, it skips to the next chapter you wanted instead of what's next on the disc. This lets you play chapters out of order, and when it's done with the program you made, it just stops playing. Now, I can't see too many uses for this. Again, maybe in an educational environment where you wanted only certain lessons, but there are tons of other options that I just don't understand. There was even one for tape side A and B. I don't know. It's pretty hard to figure out without a manual, so I never really got to understand how to use it. So, with all the benefits, why wasn't this as popular as VHS? There are many reasons. One is because, while the discs were cheaper, the players were more expensive. It also came out a little bit after VHS, so some people had already gone with that format, and they wouldn't be as inclined to invest in a whole other format. And most importantly, you can't record to it. The big draw of VHS is that you could record TV and watch it later, so you don't have to schedule your day around it. The main focus at the time wasn't for watching movies at home, so a lot of people would find a VCR more useful than a Laserdisc player, because they could just record their TV, and then if they want to watch a movie, they just go to the theater. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon, which helps me get cool new stuff. If you want to support the channel and get early access and the occasional exclusive video, I would really appreciate it. And for everyone else, thanks for watching.